Imagine you are sitting across from one of the most successful investors in history, someone who has spent decades studying markets, reading financial statements, analyzing companies, building one of the greatest investment records of all time. And you ask them, what should a regular person with no financial expertise do with their money? You are expecting something sophisticated, something complex, something that requires special knowledge or connections. Instead, they look at you and say something surprisingly simple. Buy an index fund, keep buying it consistently, and leave it alone. That is it. And the remarkable thing is, some of the most respected financial minds in history have said almost exactly that. So what is an index fund? Why do the smartest investors on earth keep recommending it for regular people? And why are so many Americans still not using it? That is what this video is about. Let us start from the very beginning. To understand what an index fund is, you first need to understand what an index is. An index is simply a way of tracking how a large group of investments is performing overall. Think of it like a report card for the economy. Instead of looking at every single company individually, an index bundles a representative group of companies together and tracks how they are performing as a whole. The most famous index in America tracks the largest and most important companies in the country, hundreds of them, across every major industry: technology, healthcare, finance, energy, consumer goods, all of them, together, in one number. When you hear on the news that the market went up today, or the market dropped, they are almost always talking about one of these indexes. Now here is where an index fund comes in. An index fund is simply an investment fund that is designed to mirror one of these indexes. It buys small pieces of every company in the index, in the same proportions that they exist in the index. So when you invest in an index fund, you are not betting on one company. You are not trying to pick winners and avoid losers. You are essentially buying a tiny piece of the entire economy. Every major company, every major industry, all at once, with one simple investment. Now let me explain why this is so powerful. The first reason is diversification. We have talked about diversification before on this channel. The idea of not putting all your eggs in one basket. An index fund gives you instant diversification, the most complete diversification available to a regular investor. Instead of owning one company that could fail completely and take your entire investment with it, you own tiny pieces of hundreds of companies. If one company has a terrible year, or even goes bankrupt completely, it barely affects your overall investment, because you have hundreds of others. One company failing is like one wave crashing, but you own the entire ocean. The second reason is cost. This is where index funds have a truly remarkable advantage over most other investments. Index funds are what is called passively managed. They do not have a team of expensive analysts, constantly researching companies, constantly buying and selling, constantly trying to outsmart the market. They simply follow the index, automatically, mechanically, without human intervention. And because of that simplicity, the fees are dramatically lower than actively managed funds. In some cases, almost nothing. And as we have discussed before on this channel, fees compound just like returns do. Every dollar saved in fees stays invested and compounds for you for decades, over a long investing lifetime. The difference in fees between an index fund and a high-fee actively managed fund can mean an extraordinary amount of money, not because of better returns, just because of lower costs. The third reason is performance. And this is the one that surprises most people. You would think that a fund managed by experts, with teams of researchers and analysts, spending their entire careers studying markets, would outperform a simple mechanical fund that just follows an index. But that is not what the data shows. Study after study over decades consistently shows that the vast majority of actively managed funds fail to outperform their benchmark index over the long term. Not most of the time, almost all of the time. The professionals with all their expertise and resources cannot consistently beat a simple index fund. And the ones who do beat it one year rarely beat it the next. Past performance in active management is not a reliable predictor of future performance. But an index fund will always perform exactly in line with the overall market. No better, no worse. And for most regular investors, matching the overall market over a long period of time produces genuinely extraordinary results. Now let me address the question most people have at this point. If index funds are so good, why does not everyone use them? The honest answer is a combination of things. Most people have never had them explained clearly. The financial industry makes more money from selling actively managed funds with higher fees. And there is a very human psychological barrier to something that feels too simple. We are wired to believe that better results require more effort, more complexity, more expertise. A simple fund that just follows the market does not feel like it should be the answer. It feels like there must be something better, something smarter, something more sophisticated. But decades of data keep saying the same thing. For most regular investors, the simple thing is the smart thing. Now let me talk about how index funds connect to everything else we have discussed on this channel. When we talked about compound interest, we talked about how money grows on top of itself over time. An index fund is one of the most effective vehicles for letting compound interest work fully. When we talked about tax-advantaged accounts, the 401k, the Roth IRA, index funds are the investment that most financial experts recommend. Holding inside those accounts, low-cost index funds inside tax-advantaged accounts, contributed to consistently over time, is the foundation of how most regular Americans who build genuine long-term wealth actually do it. Not by picking hot stocks, not by timing the market, not by finding the next big thing, by doing something simple, consistently, for a long time. Here is the simple truth about index funds. They are not exciting. They are not complicated. They do not require special knowledge or connections. They do not promise to make you rich overnight. They just work, quietly, reliably, over time, for regular people with regular incomes, who simply want their money to grow, without needing to become financial experts. The smartest investors in the world recommend them, not because they are a secret, but because they are honest. They represent the most straightforward way for a regular person to participate in the growth of the economy over a long period of time, at the lowest possible cost. That is it. That is the whole thing. And now you understand it completely. If this finally made index funds click for you, in a way they never have before, hit that like button. And here is something I want you to think about. The information in this video used to live exclusively in expensive financial planning offices, in books that most people never read, in conversations that most people were never invited into. This channel exists to change that, to take the financial knowledge that has always existed and make it accessible to everyone, clearly, honestly, without any agenda except your understanding. Every single week we go deeper into the financial topics that actually matter for real people living real lives. If that is the kind of content you want more of, subscribe right now, turn on notifications, and come back next week. Because the people who stay with this channel are the ones who stop feeling left out of financial conversations and start feeling genuinely informed. That shift changes everything. I will see you next week.